love me?
Huh?
You love me?
Yes. You love me?
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes. I
You
love
love
you.
me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes. I love you.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes.
You love me?
Yes. Only you. Jesus.
Welcome to the best fall semester in the history of Cosumnes River College. Give yourselves a round of applause. I mean, besides being the most adorable video ever, I could watch that 20 times and never get tired of it. As I begin to watch it, maybe in my 20th time, I'm not a child psychologist. There's those in the room that would have much more insight into the behavior of that young lady who continued to ask the question, do you love me? But in my imagination, is my hypothesis that each time she asked, do you love me, was actually a different question that was being proposed. Janet, do you feel me as I'm on the right track? Jeanette? Is do you love me? Because I think ultimately what she was looking for was the security that love brings. And she wanted to make sure that she will be able to be safe in the presence of her father because she will be assured that her father loved her. And she wanted to make sure that she drilled into her father's head literally at the end of the video is was he ready to live up to the responsibility that love brings? Because love brings a responsibility. It is a set of actions. So today I'm going to talk to you around this idea, this thing that love made me do it. I put up this picture for a couple of reasons. Go ahead, get it out of your system. One of the reasons that I wanted to show the picture, probably to your right, to your left, is I want you to know that I haven't always been bald. That there was a point in time in my life, no matter how small of a window it may have been, that not only did I have hair, I had lots of hair. I had enough to believe that I could grow dreads on the top of my head. Those are my attempts to have dreadlocks. I was 21 years old, and my wife wasn't my wife at the time. Threw me a 21st birthday party. Uh, been married 28 years. My wife is here. She's in the back, despite my best effort to get her towards the front. I'm going to get a little personal here. I did ask my wife her permission before I talk, but I do have the mic, so this is going to be my version of the story. And if you could catch her when you leave, you could get her version. Been married 28 years. I would like to say, I would like to say that all those years have been totally great. Overall, it's been a great 28 years, but in any relationship, in any marriage, there are seasons. And sometimes we go through seasons. We could argue that we may be in a season right now. We go through Jesus. One of the things, though, that we notice and observed in our relationship is that when we are vibing, when we are connected, is when we are in the space we're able to have open conversation and communication, where there's not anything off limits in terms of what it is that we can talk about. And then when we notice when we are not in a good space, in fact, is because there's certain places in our relationship or certain places inside of us that we're not willing to go because it may be too painful or too triggering or too uncomfortable to talk about. So we ignore it and let it go. But beneath the surface, it really doesn't go away. It just continues to fester, and it shows up in behavior, and it shows up of how we greet each other because we haven't dealt with it. When we got married, we made a decision. We made a choice. Where more like Janice made a decision and a choice, and I went along with it. But it was agreement. She said, I do not want to be in an average marriage. I don't want to be in an average relationship. I want to have an extraordinary marriage. And in order to do that, I want to practice the idea of radical honesty and radical transparency. Radical honesty and radical transparency. Meaning, I'm going to tell you the truth no matter what. And my wife has thoroughly embraced that idea and that concept. Thoroughly. A truth teller. She said, if I don't tell you the truth, if I give you a compliment, how you know if it's a real compliment? She's like Simon of the relationship, Simon of marriage, Simon from, is he still American Idol? Used to be? No, I know he's no longer there. But honest truth is. And that has saved our relationship when we go back to practice knowing that there's no conversation off limits. Because in order to have those type of conversations, we know we can always fall back on this idea that we love each other and we have the responsibility to always tell each other the truth. We don't have any places that are off limits to talk about. CRC, whether you know this or not, I don't know if I have formally proposed to you, but we's married. We are absolutely married. I'm married to you. I don't know if it's reciprocal. I think about you every day and every night. You are always on my mind. There's no other college I want but you. You are special and you are unique. You make my heart flutter every time I walk on campus. You are the one and the only institution that I would ever want to be in my life. I am married to you. We share a commitment that I hope is based on love. And I don't use that word lightly. I don't throw it around, but I love CRC. And because I love CRC, I love you. And because I love you, I always want to be in a position where you know when I say something, it is the truth, at least the truth as I understand it and I know it, because I want us not to have an average college. I don't want us to have an average relationship. To me, we made a similar agreement as Dr. Janice Bush and myself made 28 years ago. We said that we did not want an average institution. In fact, we said we want to have a what? Preeminent. A what? A preeminent college. But like in relationships, in order to be preeminent, we have to be comfortable to be able to open up and to have difficult conversations. I remember in one of our critical conversations that my wife and I could have while we in a particular season, I got to the point and shared, say, hey, he was checking in with me, like, hey, what's going on? Like something is different. And then I finally said, well, I thought maybe once we hit year 24, I could just coast this thing out. Like, I don't know if I needed to stay radical, transparent, and honest anymore. Like, we got 24 years of foundation of that. Like, can we just kick it and hang out now? Like, do we still really need to talk? Do we still really need to have conversations? Do we still really need to date? I was like, we're good. The kids out the house, they grown. Like, I'm about to relax. And that's not too different sometimes how I think about my work as college president. The last 8 years, y'all, we have done some amazing things together. Like we have moved the needle of certain data points that has never been moved 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We've been able to have 68% of our courses zero textbook. Where's Andy out at? Shout out. Guided pathways, student success teams, teaching and learning leads, housing grants, 11 federal grants when we had zero before 2014. The list goes on and on and on about the good work that you have done. You have held up your side of the bargain, your end of the bargain in this relationship tenfold. And I thank you for that. So in my mind, I'm thinking, this is year 8 for me. This is my 9th convocation. And going into last year, I'm like, maybe this is the time where I could kick it. I'm like, they know me. They knew I am. I'm predictable. They know what to expect from me at this point. If they don't know that I love them, they at least know that I like them a little bit. Like, I'm like, I'm good. Maybe we could coast this thing out. We're not average. I'm not average. Students don't deserve average. I know what I'm going to say next. Sometimes you have these things called dramatic pauses. Let things set in. There's a conversation that we need to have. If you get uncomfortable at all in this conversation, don't blame me, blame love. There has been a barrier that exists in the mind, particularly, I would say, administrators and instructional faculty. And I don't know how real it is, but it's definitely a perception that has turned into reality, I think, for me and others that are looking at ways in which we can improve student outcomes. And so this idea is the classroom is not an area that we can discuss, let alone touch. And because of that, administrators, institutions have spent time and energy, spending resources that should be going into the classroom supporting your work. This is the real implications of that. Will often go outside of the classroom because it is viewed as the path of least resistance. And so we pour money into coaches, we pour money, which is a great investment, don't get me wrong. We build pathways around how to provide support for students. We do reform of how we onboard students into our institution. But we all know the core of the institution, what matters the most, what makes us a college is the exchange that happens in the classroom. Teaching and learning is core to everything we do. In everything we do should be about how we are supporting what happens inside of the classroom. And I think as an institution, we have failed to provide instructional faculty with all the support and the development you need to be able to be in position to continue to hone and to work on your craft. And because we haven't done that, I think we continue to see the consequences of that not occurring. I promise you, I'm not going to throw a lot of data at you because in many ways, this is not a data conversation. This is a love conversation. And the reason why I can't coast that when we look at our course success rate, our average course success rate is 68.7%. That's just a point of comparison. That's not a goal. That's not an achievement. This is just what our average is. Then when we look at achievement for our Latinx students, it's 65%. And we look for our African American students, it's 55%. Almost half of the Black students who are taking courses in our institution fail a course. I was going to say in my preparation is that I own this data as college president. But I reframed that quickly in my mind. I don't own the data. Is that I own and am accountable to the students that the data represents. And when our students are struggling in our institution and struggling in the classroom, when they fail, they are asking the question, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me when my computer crashes and I don't have a way to turn in my assignment? Do you love me that I could get an extra day to get my situation fixed so I could submit my? Do you love me enough if I fall behind? I get sent to this thing called academic probation that continues to reinforce my failure. And I'm looking for tools and ways in which I can improve as a student and hone my skill sets. Do you love me? I'm struggling to buy my books or to pay rent, and my books cost $120 per book, and I have to make a decision to pay for rent or buy a book. Do you love me? Do you know my name and call me by my name when I walk in the classroom? Do you see me? Do you affirm my presence? And do you affirm my presence enough that I can see myself when I read the materials you assign? Do you love me? Do you love me that I'm learning information and content that is going to improve the situation when I get home, that I could apply what I learned and immediately take that to my family and community to begin to solve the problems that exist where I live? Do you love me? These numbers does not reflect the genius and brilliance that exists in our students. And so love puts us in position not only to own the data, but to love and to see and be accountable to the student that's behind the data. One of the things that I've learned and learning in being married is that to have a conversation about who's at fault or where we place blame is fruitless. That only produces a form of guilt, resentment, hopelessness, because you feel like I hurt someone that I love, and it's difficult sometimes to overcome that. Similarly, here, this is not a conversation about blame. It's not a conversation about fault. There's a lot of factors, a lot of variables that goes to produce this numbers and some other numbers that I'm going to show you. So don't leave here, because it's not my intention, nor is it in my heart, my mind, or my spirit to say this is the fault of any faculty member in our institution. I'm not saying that. And if that's the story you leave here, that is a lie. But this is about, just like we do in any relationship, how can we be in partnership? How can we be connected enough? How can we support each other enough that we will be able to lift up, to improve outcomes? Because it's more than just course success rates. It's what course success rates represent for our students. If they don't pass a class this fall semester, it's likely that they're not going to enroll in the institution the next semester. If they don't enroll in the institution next semester because they didn't pass a class in this semester, then they're less likely to walk that stage in 2 to 3 years. And if they don't walk that stage in 2 to 3 years because they didn't pass a class in this semester, then they're not likely to be able to go out there and earn a job that produces a livable wage. And if they're unable to get a job that's not producing a livable wage because they didn't pass a class in this semester, then they're not going to be in a position to be able to break their families out of a cycle of poverty. They're not going to be in a position to be able to pass on the knowledge and the information of what it's like to navigate their way through school. So their children were not likely to go to school themselves if they didn't pass a class in this semester. So it's more than one class. And if only 68% of our students is passing, if only 65% of Latinx students are passing, if only half of African American students are passing, then it's no wonder we see the societal statistics that we see. It is all connected. Another data point. So in the fall, we looked at the average success of faculty who regularly taught over the last 5 fall terms. And so comparing faculty teaching the same course, and we're going to talk about the variance that exists. So same course, different faculty. So the average difference, variance in success rates between those who had the highest and lowest success rates, 16.5% variance. The largest gap difference is 53.6%. We're going to talk about what that means once that to settle just a little bit as you yourself begin to think about own implications for what that means. Same course, different instruction. And, of course, I had some chance to kind of talk this out a little bit in my head and with others. And folks was concerned for me having this conversation. I had a chance to share with some of your colleagues. They're like, yeah, that makes sense. And in my mind, they were saying, good luck with that. And I began to get in my own head. I was like, ooh, how are you going to message this? How are you going to front load it? What words you going to say? How are you going to make sure that people are not going to feel blamed? How are you going to let them know you understand the conversation that needs to be had about standards and rigor? So all these things going through my mind, and I had to say to myself, stop. Stop. I love these people. Stop. I'm committed to this place. Stop. We got folks who have professional pride and passion. Our faculty show up every single day. Our classified professional shows up every single day with the best interest of their students in mind without question. So let's just have a conversation. Let's be honest. Let's practice radical honesty and transparency. Because if I'm not genuine, that's going to be the problem. If you think I'm trying to be on message, that's going to be an issue. But right now, we have a situation that our students' success is often determined by which class they get or who they don't get. And so it's by accident. So whatever lack of preparation our students come with, whatever deficiency you believe that they have, it is equally dispersed across these same sections, but two different set of outcomes are occurring. 53% variance from a course to a course. Conversations we just need to have. And it's my hope. In fact, it is my prayer that we feel like we have evolved enough as an institution, that we feel secure enough as a college, that we feel loved enough and feel enough love from each other, that we would go back, pull up our computers, and begin to look at our data. You have access to your course success rate. Let's ask ourselves the question, is there a pattern of success? And also, is there a pattern of failure? And if so, why? And if so, is there anything that I could learn? Is there anything that I could glean? Is there anything that I can reflect on? Is there anything that I could be more thoughtful about that can make a difference? Not in your classroom, not in what it is you teach, That's not the difference that I'm talking about. The difference that I'm talking about is kind of make a difference in the lives of the students that is in this classroom that would change their trajectory for the rest of their life. Not passing them for the sake of passing them, not reducing expectations, because when you love someone, expectation only grows. You're able to raise the standard because they feel secure, because they know you love them. And when they know you love them, there's no content, there's no concept that the students would not master. I know I'm telling the truth, whether you believe me or not. That's a fact and book. Love allows you to receive that. You're in a position now where they're opening enough for you to draw out of something that they didn't even know existed. And total of 3,220 of our students, 23% out of the 13,000 plus students we had in the fall. Courses for which the instructor had the lowest course success rate. But we're not talking about one or two students. 3,200 of our students are in courses that have the lowest student success. And if I had to hypothesize, and Paul is here to ask him later if my hypothesis is sort of accurate. Paul always comes flying fresh to Convocation. His bow ties be on point. and while we on Paul, let's give it up for our research team in general. We got the best research team, period. Just hands down. Period. My hypothesis is if we just aggregated that 3,200 students, I think we will see a connection and correlation to the disaggregated outcomes and course success. I'm not going to look at Paul in the eyes because I can't handle being wrong right now. We're going to practice radical. We'll practice radical truth right after this. My big sister, who's also my pastor, says this about love. She says that everything that authentic love touches, it transforms. Everything that authentic love touches, it transforms. What that means to me, that no matter how our students show up or what conditions they show up with, that when we practice and operate and lead and teach and serve from a place of love, it means that they, along with their conditions, along with their lack of preparation, along with their academic deficiency, along with their lack of motivation, will be transformed into the student that excels in everything that he or she does. That's what transformation is. That if we practice authentic love, that 1 year from now, we will be looking at a whole different set of outcomes when we're looking at course success rates, because we can transform and move those numbers because we're practicing and operating from a standpoint of authentic love. And so when the students, just like the little girl, begins to say, "Do you love me? Do you love me?" You can say, "You graduated, didn't you? Do you love me? Do you love me? You transferred, didn't you? Do you love me? Do you love me? You passed my class, didn't you?" Because we have the power to transform, because we're willing to have a difficult and honest and hard conversation. And there's nothing off limits for what it is that we could talk about when the lives of our students are at stake. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. You will have more opportunities, more ways to be able to engage in this conversation. Stay tuned. Hope you lean into it, embrace it, push for it, and ask for it. Have conversations with your colleagues. Share your data with them. Use it as an opportunity to continue to learn, continue to grow, for us to continue to get